What is up, guys? How's it going? Dom, I would say you're the best. You're the best Belmont player. Like, I'm sure there are other really good ones, but you just do a lot with the character. Stuff I've never seen anyone else do. Yeah, I guess before I start, do you have like any socials and stuff you wanna link?
I have Twitter and stream on Twitch. Those are both Dom_SSB. I occasionally upload content to YouTube, which is just named the same name as my tag.
Yeah, I just wanted to get some of your impressions on the character. Okay, so I'm just gonna start off strong with the questions. Do you think that the Belmonts are top tier? And if you don't, what do you think is holding them back from being top tier?
I'm sure that question's popping up mainly from their high win rate online. I'm sure if most of the people who've done the research have noticed, with the recent PG stats that's gotten released, that character has a pretty high win rate online, at least to a lower or mid-level or elite smash, but has a very low usage rate. And that kind of tells you something, is that the people tend to struggle against the character if they don't really know what they're doing. So first of all, just to get the answer out of the way, I'd say no, definitely not high tier. I think they're around maybe upper mid tier. They have some very strong tools, but they're very limited. It's very tough to put them on a tier list and tough to make matchup charts because all their matchups are pretty volatile because of their blatant weaknesses, mostly in terms of their disadvantage and recovery. Now, I've heard people compare their recovery to, say, Ganon or Little Mac. I don't think it's that bad. It's just they have a lot of recovery mix-ups, but the problem is if you guess right, they can die as early as 20 or 30%. You've seen it before. I'd mainly put them at like upper mid-tier, and one contributor to their success is when people don't know the matchup. They make them look broken when they're really not, and so that plays a pretty important role with that. So most of my recent work towards the character is trying to make him work against people who know the matchup, especially when it comes to like the ledge trapping and their advantage state.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question.
No, that definitely does. It's good to hear you say that because I have also thought that about the character. And I guess that kind of transitions over to my next question, which is how good of a counterpick character do you think the Belmonts are? Because like you said before, they do have like some very polarizing matchups. So to me, it seems like there are some like very notable characters that they just absolutely dominate. But I mean, obviously they do have some hard matchups, which is why I think, if you have like a good Belmont, you could just hard counterpick someone and you can probably just snake a win that way.
I've seen him used as counterpick occasionally, mostly against those characters that have poor approach options, most notably maybe characters like Luigi, maybe some zoners like Snake or Hero. I think he does well against personally. He does well against a lot of grapplers, ice climbers, Incineroar, those slower characters. You do have to have a pretty good Belmont in order to successfully counterpick with that. You can't just have it as some pocket, because especially if they know the matchup. If they don't know the matchup, then it'll work out. But at the same time, if you don't know how to fight against Belmont, you can't counterpick him either. Because I've had people try using Joker or Pikachu against me, but if they don't not only know that character well enough, like their own character that they're counterpicking with, and the Belmont matchup with that character, it doesn't work out either. They have the potential to be a really strong counterpick, especially against somebody who's not familiar with the matchup. But if it's somebody who is a little bit more familiar, then you have to be like you're fighting a Luigi who maybe knows the matchup. Then you'd have to be pretty competent with the character for it to work out as a counterpick.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is kind of like a weird question to ask because I don't know how often you play other characters, but how difficult would you say the Belmonts are to like pick up and like, I guess, get to a reasonable level? Like, obviously, I don't think you could just pick up the character and be as good as you are, like some of the other top Belmont players, but how much time would you say you would have to put into them compared to, like, let's say Mario or like, Palutena? Like, how easy are they compared to those characters?
Like, okay, if you want to get them to like an equal level, I'd probably say about like 3 or 4 times as much time, I'd say. Because there's like a lot of layers to what you have to learn to do. I mean, just the basics is just being able to aim your normals correctly, because if you misspace something or you misangle something, that'll cost you neutral. And because your disadvantage state and advantage state are so polarizing, that's just how important that is. And being able to space projectiles at ledge, frame trap effectively, things like up B out of shield, and mastering his scramble game because he has very poor up close options. A lot of things that kind of take take a while to develop or get used to.
Okay, so you said that the Belmonts, you would put them in the upper mid tier. I'm assuming because of that, you wouldn't say they're like solo viable. If they're not, do you have any intention of like having another counterpick character? Because to my knowledge, you only play the Belmonts. I don't think I've seen you play any other character.
I've only been playing them like in like highest level of tournament. Sometimes I'll go other characters in like early rounds because I've been trying to find secondaries. They are by no means solo viable. They have maybe like 7 to 8 matchups that I would consider just not even worth going. Like there are a lot of characters where it's like it's tough, but it's like totally doable. But then there's like a few characters where either they have such a great approach game, they can avoid his ledge traps, they can edge guard the crap out of him, and it's just not even worth going that character in. So I mean, personally for me, I'd think that like I'm trying to work on Palutena. I think that the best counter pick or secondary to have with Belmont would be Game & Watch, because he directly counters a lot of his really bad matchups like Rats, Inkling, Wario. So I'm working on Palutena because she also does well against some of his losing matchups, and she's also easy to pick up like you mentioned before. Yeah. Like, you know, I'd like to try and get good with maybe Snake or Hero or Steve just out of fun, but to actually be able to counterpick, I think I'd like to try and use a character that takes the least amount of time to pick up and does a good job of covering those bad matchups. So yeah, he's definitely not solo viable in my opinion. And if somebody wanted to win a major using the character, they'd either need that solid secondary, or just would need to have really good bracket luck in terms of people who either like don't know how to fight the character or don't play a character that, you know, has like a +1 or +2 matchup on them.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's also good to hear you say that because, again, your Belmonts are really, really good, but, you know, I've seen, like, Pikachu Belmonts just looks horrible. And, you know, just to hear you say that you have, like, you're working on a secondary is good to hear, because I actually really, really like the way your Belmonts play. Like, some of the stuff you do, it's like, how is he doing this? And, like, you do, like, some ridiculous combos, like, pretty consistently. I'm like, like, how? Like, it's just really, really cool to see. So it's awesome to hear that, you know, you're taking the steps to, like, progress in tournament even further and, like, not having to worry about those god-awful matchups that the Belmonts do have. Okay, so you recently went to an offline event. I just want to hear your experience from it. Like, what in your mind, like, was, like, a big highlight to you? You did win the event. So you ended it in, like, a really, really sick way. I saw your tweet on it. Yeah, what would you say is, like, you know, the highlights from that event, and then how was it in comparison to online and offline? Because you've been playing a lot of online, as you know, all of us have.
Well, contrary to popular belief, I really don't think that online benefits him that much, if at all. And I wanted to go win an online event to prove, number one, that I actually did improve at the game over quarantine, and that the character actually does work offline. The main reasons that I think so obviously everybody goes straight to, okay, projectiles are automatically buffed online, and maybe you can't react to his normals or tilts as quickly. Sure, there's that. But like from our perspective, there's a lot of things that require reaction. Like, for example, sometimes you hit somebody with, there's a lot of times where I'll just hit somebody with holy water and then not have enough time to react that I hit it. So maybe I'll only get like an F tilt or straight aerial, instead of, if I had more time to react to the fact they got hit by it, then I get like a forward smash or something. Or it's harder to react to the fact that you got somebody into a setup. Also, being able to up B out of shield, you have to react to what move did your opponent use. Did they use a -5 move or a -8 move? Did they space it properly? Are they drifting away from you? And you have to, did they cross you up? You have to react to all those things to try and use up B out of shield, which is the main up close option. And you've seen there are times where I'll just start whiffing up B's out of shield and eat huge punishes off of it, because, I mean, partially because I just messed up, and partially having less time to react makes that more difficult. The character is really good at frame trapping people because of his range. You know, if you force somebody to air dodge with an up air or up tilt, he's really good at that because of his range. And offline, that's a lot easier to do. On top of that, one of the other main things that gave him success online was, yeah, people not knowing how to fight him, and also a lot of those matchups like Fox and Joker that give him a hard time. Those characters just happen to be nerfed in their own ways online. And so that was kind of my mentality going into the local. Like I said, is just like, sure, I want to shake the rust off. I didn't want to try and feel like I was pressured to do well, even though I was. You know, I was like, if I'm focused too much on winning, I'm not gonna have a good time. Like, I just want to be grateful that I'm going to the first local that I have in like 14 months. You know, after getting vaccinated and everything. I just wanted to try and do the best I could and just focus on the game. And so it ended up working out. Sure, there was a little bit of Wi-Fi rust. I was like missing putting fastballs and stuff. Fortunately, I was like spacing most things on ledge. I'd also do occasional offline practice sessions, maybe like once or twice every month or so. And I think that kept me from, being too rusty. Yeah, it ended up paying off. I ended up taking it over AC, who beat me the first time that we played pre-COVID. And so yeah, I was really really happy to see that work out. Though I don't want to be fully convinced that I've improved in everything until everything comes back full swing and I start seeing like more long-term results showing improvement. But this is like kind of a first step in that direction.
You talked about how you feel like offline Belmont or online Belmont isn't that much better than offline Belmont. So I guess you would still say that online, like in the online meta, he still is not solo viable.
Yeah, he's still not solo viable. You're still gonna have like those characters like I'm just throwing Rob out there. Rob is doable, but it's just like, do you really want to fight somebody who can just clip your tether at any percent with Side B and immediately kill you? And that character's meta. So there are still like characters that are meta. Even some people will still use Zero Suit. She's even harder to hit on Wi-Fi. You're trying to hit her with like this thin move that's active for 1 or 2 frames, and she's jumping around, and she just feels impossible to hit online. And punishing flip kick, which she mainly will use to avoid your ledge traps. Pikachu still gets used online. That matchup's really tough too. So yeah, still not solo viable online or offline. But I think online he's got a little bit of a better chance because some of those really bad matchups get nerfed a little bit.
What do you think is the biggest thing you get away with the Belmonts that like no one just never punishes? And if you don't want to say it, I understand. You don't have to, but yeah, what do you think? Okay.
I think the biggest thing to get away with people not SDIing the holy water. That's like my biggest like I think they really got to fix that. If you've seen how like fighting Charlie or something, or when I fought Leo, I throw holy water at him point blank and you can't get forward smash because by the time I'm even close to hitting it, he just SDIs out of it. A lot of his combos are just fake because you can just immediately SDI out of it. That's probably the one thing that I get away with the most is people not doing that, because then you get all this, some of the crazy stuff that you've seen.
Yeah.
Like usually, okay, the latter one that might be actually a bit more reliable, but if it's anything where I'm you throw fire at him and then do short hop cross and then hit them into the cross. That's way too much. You're giving him way too much time if you haven't already SDI'd out of it by then. Trust me, there's a lot of things that he gets away with, but that's like the main thing.
He's good at ledge trapping, so you get hit with that on the ledge, and they're not SDIing it. It's like sweet spot forward smash kills super early.
Right. Okay. Well, if they normal get up into the ledge, you're probably already, if you react to that in time, you're already forward smashing by the get up. They don't have enough time to SDI that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Someone asked a really good question I want to actually ask you. So what do you think would make the Belmont solo viable? What buffs do you think they would need in order to become solo viable?
They just gave him more air drift. That's it. I was like, oh, what buffs do you think would be fair? And then some people were like, oh, just give him more air drift, because he has the worst air mobility in the game. I don't know if you've ever played him before. He feels like a brick in the air.
Yeah.
Like you goes back and forth. He doesn't move at all. And he's tied with Snake for the worst air acceleration in the game, but he has worst air max speed than Snake. So he's got the worst aerial mobility in the game. If they gave him more air drift, then he'd get these like ungodly combos like Nair into Nair or Fair into Fair, and he becomes Palutena on top of getting like a better recovery. So do you really want that?
Yeah, like regarding the aerial mobility thing, I don't think they're ever going to change that, just because I feel like that was what they were going for, because that's how his jumps are in Castlevania, right?
But his main weakness is, besides the air drift, is a lot of his normals. Like, not that they don't function, it's just you see Min, for example. She's honestly just DLC Belmont. Those normals, like her arm attacks have like twice as much range almost, at least the smash attack versions, and they're active like all the way there. What Belmont's is just like when you do a forward air, it just flashes. It's active for forward air is active for 1 frame. Back air is active for 2 frames, and so you'll have these moments where it looks like the whip is touching them, but it's not active. So I'm hoping that they maybe add like at least like 1 or 2 extra frames on those, because it's kind of frustrating to see it. It looks like it's active and they just run right through it and then go hit you. Some other problems is Nair. It's kind of small. It has like a flicker hitbox. I think Pit has that though. I'm not sure. So it's like sometimes it'll lose to moves because of RNG.
Yeah.
Because it'll either be on or off or on or off. And if you run into somebody while it's off, then you get hit. His down air hitbox doesn't cover his foot, so it loses to everything. Like it's like a negative disjoint. So if you down air into like somebody else's move, you'll just lose. And then yeah, the SDI is a big problem. You have to read how they're gonna get out of the fire just to confirm off of it. It's like its main job is to be a kill confirm, and it can't even do that because people can just SDI out of it. The axe losing to every hitbox also kind of sucks, considering that whole move is 66 frames. All that startup just to like for somebody to flick it away, or that's like probably the worst out of his projectiles. But I mean, he's got good tools. And one thing that I typically say is like, if somebody's playing like Palutena, Wolf, Joker, or a top tier, you can tell who's playing the character without even like, seeing who it is, just by how they play the character and the interactions. But I feel like with Belmont, you shouldn't be able to have as easy of a time telling that. I think that everybody should play him almost the same. Like there's a very distinct optimal way of playing him because his tools are so limited. That's why. So it's not saying that he doesn't have any mix, because he does have mix-ups and such, but like his tools are so limited that you should play him roughly the same, especially when it comes to like advantage state. I feel like just with slight mix-ups in between.
That totally makes sense, because I do think that the lower tiered characters, they don't have the luxury of like being able to be played like different ways. They kind of just they have like this cookie cutter playstyle that you have to abide to, and if you don't, you're playing them worse than you should be. I think that's it. Thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was awesome to like hear your input on the character. Hopefully get to see you at another offline event. Hopefully I go.
Smash World Tour.
Smash World Tour. Oh yeah, I will see you at that. That was pretty cool. I'll have like your socials and stuff linked. Yeah, again, thank you so much.
Of course, thanks for taking the time.